besties, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about every single book that I read in December and January. And honestly, I can't say that I ended the year the strongest or am also starting the year the strongest. If you guys watched my most recent video on my February TBR, then you guys would know that for most of January, I have been in a bit of a reading slump and am currently in the middle of 4 books, and I think I'll go over those at the end of this video just very briefly. But if we're talking about all of the books that I have read so far that I have successfully completed, I have read 8 books. We had 2 romances, 4 fantasies, which is a lot of fantasy for me, 1 sci-fi, and 1 fiction. Also, for anyone concerned that there are going to be some repeats in this video from my video where I ranked every single book that I had read in 2025 from worst to best. In that video, I basically talked about every book for like a sentence or 2. This is going to be a deeper dive into all of the books. So that is it. Let's talk about the books. Up first, we have Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston, and this was one of my most anticipated releases of 2025, and so it's actually crazy that I did not read this book until literally the last month of the year. In this story, we're following our main character, Joni, who is one of the most famous and successful songwriters in LA. She has written tons of famous pop songs, but at this time in her life, she is experiencing very intense writer's block, and she can't seem to get a song done. And so to shake things up, she decides that she wants to fly home to North Carolina where her family lives to see if she can just like reset and get the creative juices flowing. But when she gets there, she starts hearing a melody in her head, and that melody is accompanied by a male voice. She's like, oh my God, why can I hear a man in my head? Am I going crazy? And that's kind of where the story goes. Ashley Poston is famous for her magical realism romances, and that is exactly what this is. I ended up rating this book a 3.5. I really loved the beginning. I really loved the ending, but I did find the middle a bit slow to the point where I was a little bit bored. I wasn't feeling super invested in the outcome for all of our characters, and so that was a little bit frustrating for me. I will say I absolutely just love Ashley Poston's writing. Like, it is some of my favorite writing that I have ever met. The way... It is some of my favorite writing that I have ever read. I just love the way that she can describe a feeling and the way that she can describe a place. It just feels so crystal clear in my brain. The last thing that I just like didn't love about this romance is there is a bit of a third act conflict that did frustrate me a little bit. But I still absolutely recommend this book. I recommend anything by Ashley Poston. This was a good way to start off my December. Up next, I picked up Reckless by Lauren Roberts, and I really wanted to like this book. I really did. This is book 2 in the Powerless trilogy, and I read Powerless, I want to say about 2 years ago at this point, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. However, it did end on quite a cliffhanger, and so I knew that at some point I did want to continue this series. And in this world, we're following our main character, Peyton, and she is an ordinary, meaning she has no magic, and she's living in a world filled with elites, and elites have powers, obviously. But the problem is, in this world, it's illegal to be ordinary. So if you're ordinary, you get killed. And so Peyton, to survive, pretends that she has powers even though she doesn't. And this becomes a problem when Peyton gets selected to compete in these trials at the castle. And when she's there, she meets the enforcer, who's not only competing against her in these trials, but he is also in charge of killing ordinaries. And that may or may not be who our romance is between. And that was book 1. Honestly, the biggest issue about this book for me was I felt like there was a lack of plot because of the banter, which was something I'd never experienced before. Kai and Peyton are really just going in circles with each other because they like each other, but they can't be together. And it's infuriating. It is so infuriating. And I'm like, guys, there's actually high stakes things happening right now, but you are just ignoring them because you're flirting with each other. And I just feel like because there was so much banter, we lost the plot, and like the banter lost its impact because it was the entire book. But I probably will still continue this series because, again, it ended on a huge cliffhanger and I want to know what's going to happen. Book number 3 was A Merry Irish Christmas by Claudia Murphy. I rated this one like a solid 3.5 stars. If you guys are looking for a totally silly and ridiculous holiday romance to pick up next Christmas, I know this isn't the most poignant now, but next Christmas, leave this one in your back pocket because I actually had a really good time reading this book. In this story, we're following our main character, Mary, and her holiday season starts out terribly because she just got dumped by her longtime boyfriend. And so she decides that she's going to fly home for Christmas to surprise her family in Ireland. Unfortunately, when Mary gets to Ireland, she realizes that her family has actually decided to surprise Mary for Christmas in New York City. And so they have swapped places on opposite sides of the world, essentially. And the icing on the cake in this whole situation is that when Mary gets home, not only is her family not there, but there is a mysterious man in their house. And it turns out that her family had done a house swap with someone from New York. And let's just say there's a romance that starts between Mary and this mysterious house swap man. And it kind of gives the holiday in certain ways, obviously not completely, but there are elements of the holiday in this book. Again, it like the only way that I can describe this is ridiculously entertaining. Like it's completely ridiculous, but for some reason, I really did have a good time reading this book. All three of the books I just talked about also were in reading vlogs that I did for Bookmas, so I'm gonna link those down below if you missed it. Before I continue into the next book, I did just want to remind you guys that signups for my mail club for the month of March are only open for 2 more days. So if you guys are interested in receiving a bookmark, a newspaper on new releases coming out, among other things, a personal essay from me, and a word game in your mailbox every single month, you guys can click the link in my description. Signups are only open through the 1st of February. So if you guys were thinking about that, I just wanted to mention it here. All of that information is linked down below. I would be so lucky to have you. And let's continue on to the next book that I read in December. Book number 4 was Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. And wow, did I get some hate in my video where I ranked every book from 2025 from worst to best, because this book was at the bottom, one of the bottom. It was towards the bottom. I don't remember where it was. This book is a fiction story taking place in a small Irish town. It's also historical fiction. I'm forgetting when exactly this takes place. I want to guess like the 1980s, but I'm gonna put exactly when it takes place on the screen. And we have our main character named Bill Furlong. He's really just a family man. He works in coal. He does something with coal. I don't remember exactly what. And the whole book takes place in the weeks leading up to Christmas. And so we end up watching him as he uncovers something going on at the church in his town. And this thing that he discovers is like not good, basically. And so it kind of triggers some things for him. It makes him reflect on his like youth and his childhood and his adulthood, questioning how he should handle this situation. He is evaluating how the people in his life are feeling about these situations. It's just, there's a lot to it for a pretty short book, but honestly, I did not like it, and to each their own. That's just how I'm choosing to see this one. I just felt like the writing style was giving fever dream for me. Like I just like could not really grasp what I was supposed to be paying attention to, what exactly was happening. And I don't think it was me, you know, like I'm convinced it was the book. I don't think it was me, because a lot of the girls in my book club, we all read this together, did not enjoy this. There's like 10 of us, and I want to say like 8 of us did not like this book. Not my favorite. However, if you loved it, I'm so happy for you. And a lot of people love this book. It has incredibly high ratings on Goodreads. So if you're considering picking this up, I still think you should. It just wasn't for me. The final book that I read in December was a reread, and that book was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. If you guys watch my channel regularly, then you already know that this is like my favorite fantasy series on the entire planet. I love it so much. And this was my 3rd time that I know of. I might have read it more, but like for sure, this was my 3rd time reading this book. In this story, we're following our main character, Kel, and he is a very rare type of magician called an Antari. And basically, Antaris have the unique ability to travel between worlds. And so basically the way that this universe is set up is there are 4 different Londons, and each London has varying amounts of magic in them. And to distinguish between each London, Kel has kind of given the Londons a nickname. So we have Grey London, which is our London, no magic. Then there's White London, which has a little bit of magic. Red London, which is flourishing with lots of magic. And then we have Black London, which is like kind of a dark place that nobody really talks about. You can't get there anymore, essentially. At the beginning of this book, Kel gets himself into some trouble smuggling items between worlds, which is actually very illegal. And I just love this book. I love the world that it becomes. But yeah, if you guys are looking for a bingeable fantasy series that's heavy on the fantasy and like 10% on the romance, if that, I highly recommend these. They're so good. Then moving into January, these are the books that I finished in January. And guys, as I said, I've been slumping. So I've started 7 books, a lot of books in January. But these are the ones that I finished, and I found that in my slump, the only way that I was getting through things was through audiobooks. So just know that most of these were primarily audio experience. And so the first book that I finished in January was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. And guys, I am kind of shook by how much I loved this book. I read the first book in this series about 2 years ago and have continued thinking about it. But when I read that for the first time, I was a little bit bored. And so if you are the type of person who likes your fantasies to be very action-packed and very quick moving, these are not the books for you. And so when I read it physically, I was a little bit bored. But I picked up this book because, as I said, I'd continued thinking about the series, but I was doing a bit of physical reading and a lot of audiobook listening. And can I just say that the audiobook experience for these books is immaculate. 10 out of 10. The voice actor who does Emily's voice was so good. Like, I could not put this book down. I'm shook because the first book was probably like a 2.753, and the second I switched over to audio, it was a 4.5. Crazy. So that's my hot take. And in this book specifically, a bunch of fairies show up at the university that Emily works at. She's a professor. She studies the fae. She studies the fairies. She's a little bit socially awkward, but we love her. And so the book kind of kickstarts with her going on a journey with her other scholarly professor friend, who she also might be a little bit in love with, Wendell Bamblebee, to go and figure out what these fairies are doing, and also to work on her next big project, which is completing a map of the Otherlands. And it was just so fun and so cozy. And again, the audiobook narrator was incredible. This was so good. It's like making me want to reread the first book in the series, but like re-listen. You get it. So that book was so good. And at this point, I'm slumping. I can't finish anything physically. So I'm like, you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm just going to finish the Emily Wilde series. So the next book that I picked up was Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. And this was honestly such a lovely conclusion to the Emily Wilde world. I feel like with the second one, I could talk a little bit about what happened in it without spoiling anything in the series. But in this book, I do feel like there are things that I can't describe it very well without spoiling too many things. But just know it's very cozy. It's very sweet. There's a little bit more romance in there. There are animal friends, fae. I will say the big key difference that I noticed about the third book compared to the first two is the first two books in the series are very much like traveling books. Like they're giving Lord of the Rings vibes because they're moving between places and exploring all throughout the book. But in the third book, Emily and Wendell are very much in one place for the majority of the book. And so it's not much of a traveling book quite as much. There's a little, but not a ton. It just was different. I didn't like this one quite as much as the second one, but I did like it more than the first book. I don't honestly have a ton to add to this summary that I didn't say in the first one, or the second book, I guess. But yeah, these were so good and definitely the highlight of my January so far. The eighth and final book that I have successfully finished so far is kind of a random one, but I picked up All Systems Red by Martha Wells, which I heard Katie is Reading talk about this series originally. I liked it, but I also kind of didn't. I will say I picked up this book in the first place because I was on a road trip from Houston back to Dallas for the weekend, and I was driving, and so I had like 4 hours ahead of me, and so I was like, oh, what can I listen to that my boyfriend will probably not hate, So I finished Emily Wilde in the car, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start something that I think we'll both like, and so that's why I picked All Systems Red. And in this book, it's not even a book really, it's like a series of novellas. It's a bunch of short books all together in this big long series called the Murderbot series. And they're sci-fi books, and we're following our or no, they're not the Murderbot series. It's called Murderbot Diaries #1. And so basically we're following this robot who in his head calls himself a murderbot. And he is basically supposed to be this crazy, epic killing machine who hates humans, but actually he has a little bit of a heart in there and says he hates humans, but he actually doesn't. And so there are all these like different interplanetary missions going on, ships moving between different planets, delivering different things, all this kind of stuff. And Murderbot gets assigned a mission to work with these scientists on like a remote planet, and they notice something out of the ordinary, basically. And Murderbot ends up like working with these scientists and protecting them and trying to like uncover the mystery of what's going on. Apologies for being vague, but it's such a short book. It would be really easy to spoil everything. And I think my thing with this book is we really jumped right into the plot, which I think is normally very, very good. But because of that, I was having a really hard time actually picturing everything. Like I just could not grasp what the world looked like or felt like. Like there were just a lot of details that I felt were missing in my head. And also I cared literally zero for anybody in this book. Murderbot, the humans, like I just could not care less about what would happen to them. And I also think that that is a byproduct of these books just being on the shorter side. And so there wasn't really enough time for me to connect with Murderbot and like the other characters. And so honestly, at this point, I don't really want to continue this series. I'm open to it, but I liked it, but just not enough to carry on. But yeah, that was my first sci-fi book of the year. And I do really like sci-fi. It just depends on like the book and the author and all of that kind of stuff. So that was Murderbot Diaries #1. And then I just wanted to close out this video by telling you guys the other 4 books that I'm in the middle of right now that I haven't been able to finish. I started almost all of these during December and January, and I'm at least halfway through literally each and every single one of them. At the time of filming this video, I do have just under a week left of January, so there is hope for me to finish these books, but I thought I would tell them to you so you guys can hype me up in the comments and tell me maybe which one to finish first. And so at this point, I am halfway through Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth. I am halfway through Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I am halfway through The Two Towers, which is the second Fellowship of the Ring book by J.R.R. Tolkien. And finally, I am halfway through Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. So if we average all of those together, I've completed 2 more books, but that's not how these wrap-ups really work. And so yeah, I'm just having a hard time finishing things. So if you guys are like, oh, the second half of these books get so good or so interesting, let me know, because I'm having a hard time knowing what book to prioritize, and I really should finish one of those before picking up another book. That was my December and January wrap up. If you guys had any 4 or 5-star reads in the last 2 months, please let me know. I would love to hear about it. And of course, if you made it all the way to this point in the video, comment down below. Let's do a star emoji so I know who made it all the way here. And again, don't forget to sign up for the Cozy Reader Club no later than the 1st of February. Then signups will be closed for March. And I think that's it from me. I hope you guys are having a great day and a great reading month, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.